What's happening, y'all? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world when you're watching this. I want to welcome you to the first podcast episode of the Micah Initiative, the 6 and 8 project. I am Dr. Tyree Anderson. I am the uh, establisher and founder of the Micah Initiative. And I want to begin this first by saying thank you for even watching. I don't know what I'm doing, but I do believe that there's something I need to do as it relates to talking about what we ought to be doing. Um I am, just to kind of give you a background, I am a college professor, Selma University. So I want to make sure that I rep that HBCU grad. I do have some education. I am a proud graduate of the Samuel Dewitt Proctor School of Theology of Virginia Union. So STVU is coursing through my veins. I am a graduate of the Ashland Theological Seminary, got a doctorate in ministry and black church studies from the McCrary Center in Cleveland. My advisor, Dr. William Myers, many of you may know him if you run in these circles. But I wanted to begin some type of podcast because I believe that there's a void oftentimes in many other things that we're watching online and things that we're encountering. I don't know how big this thing is going to get. I don't even know if it's going to go viral. Don't know if it's going to blow up. But I promise to be engaging. I promise to be focused. I promise to be active. I promise to be um, innovative. I promise to expand. Right now, you see my backdrop. I got the Black Star of Ghana that's over my left shoulder. I got the Ugandan flag over my right. East Africa, West Africa. I am missionary also as well. Have engaged in different types of missionary work. Instead of me trying to take the gospel over, we have taken resources and support over to Uganda and to Ghana. I'm taking the team of 6 over to Ghana with me in September for us to do some work. Gonna put some water wells in. Gonna buy some supplies for the schools. Gonna try and have a great impact in the lives of the people. I am about the people. I am about this work. And so I wanted to get on and I wanted to at least try to get a first podcast going. I'm working with the team. We're developing what our topics will look like every week. Um, but I just wanted to get on and just kind of kick it with y'all for a few minutes. Y'all just bear with a brother as we begin to develop this thing out and really begin to move in a different direction. The Micah Initiative is named after the very thought process that take place in the prophetic book of Micah found in your Bible. I am a pastor, and I do believe that this text that we have is of African origin. So I'm not veering from my African heritage, not veering from the work that has come from the continent of Africa, especially with the early church fathers. I'm a historian by training, George Mason University, so I got a ton. My background is full. And this Micah initiative, I'm going to bring all of it together. I'm going to bring my history training, my training as a historian, my training as a theologian, my work as a missionary, my calling and my work as a pastor, the work I did in the Bureau of Prisons as a chaplain, changing and transforming lives. I'm going to bring all this to the table. The books that I've written several books. So there's a lot that I intend to bring to the table, but I intend to bring it because I want people who watch and support and subscribe and like this podcast, what I want them to do is I want them to be able to say that I've walked away knowing something else that I must do. And so this initiative, the 6-8 project, Micah chapter 6, verse 8 project, is designed specifically to help us understand what God requires of us. I make no apologies of my faith and my belief in God. I make no apologies for it. I am absolutely supportive of my African heritage and my culture. I make no apologies for my blackness. I make no apologies for my faith in God. I make no apologies about my belief and support of from that brother that's from Nazareth. I make no apologies. So if anyone is looking to get on and want to talk to me, want to engage, cool, I'm with it. But we will not apologize for our faith. So, what is this initiative? What is the Micah initiative? I believe that the Micah initiative is based on and rooted in and supported by what God requires of humanity. I believe that there is a requirement that God has of all human beings, and that requirement, I believe, is laid out in Micah chapter 6, verse 8. Here's what the text says in the New Revised Standard Version. Micah chapter 6, verse 8. It says, He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. He has told you what to do, and you know what the Lord requires. Here's what the Lord requires: to do justice. I'm going to deal with government. I'm going to deal with public policy. I'm going to deal with the issues that are impacting people because God requires that justice is done. What else does God require? God requires that we would love kindness, that we will engage in loving kindness, that we will love one another. And if you do justice, you will love one another. And then you can walk humbly with God. One of the problems that we got today is that we got too many people that are not able to understand what is their requirement. They believe their requirement is to get a bag. They believe their requirement is to make some other people happy. They believe that their requirement is to do something that satisfies their desire, their aspiration, their dreams. You can have aspirations, you can have dreams, you can have the goals in mind, but when those goals, those aspirations, and those dreams begin to hurt other people, it's out of the will of God. And so, what this Micah initiative, this 6-8 project, is going to do is going to allow us to take a look and see what we need to do to make sure that our lives, that our communities, that our churches, that our organizations, that our conventions, that whatever we involved in line up with the three initiatives that has been outlined in Micah 6 and 8. Justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly with God. That means that the ego has been suppressed. The ego has been checked because when you and I are more focused on building our world and building our society, we forget that other people are going to be involved and other people are going to be hurt and other people are going to suffer. We forget that. We forget that our selfish ambitions oftentimes hurt other people. And so that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be taking a great look, a great gander at what this initiative is, what is required of us, what are we supposed to do. This is me. This is me. You're not going. Oftentimes, if I can't help you, you're not gonna find me in a suit. You're not gonna find me with a shirt and a tie on. You're gonna find me like this. I'm just a simple dude, simple guy. Love people, love to be around people, love to make change, love to have an impact. And the question is, how has that worked? It's worked extremely well. I don't try to be somebody else. I don't try to be what other people want me to be. Instead, I am who God made me to be. So, with that said, let's kind of take a look at a few things. Let's kind of bounce some uh, thoughts, conversations. Because I'm telling you, I'm gonna change all this. I'm gonna change all this. I got to get me a real location to work. Right now, I'm treating this as if this is the hip hop underground. I'm treating this as if I'm trying to get out a mixtape. I'm treating this like I'm hungry and I'm on the grind and I'm trying to come up because that's what it is. Uh, I'm trying to get this work done because I believe that uh, this is the next phase of being able to get the message out without necessarily being in the pulpit. And so last night I got a chance to work with the Oasis of Hope Birmingham Church under the pastor of Reverend Ramon Billingsley, who is one of the greatest language scholars you're going to find this out of heaven. He's absolutely brilliant in understanding the Hebrew, understanding the Aramaic, understanding the ancient languages of the Bible, and he can even read Hebrew and Greek. So he is fully aware of the language. So yesterday I did work with him in his Bible study last night. And in working with his Bible study last night, what happened is that we talked about the church as a tool of empire. Now, I know this may come as a major surprise to some, but the church historically has been the tool of empire since Constantine. Got to go all the way back to Council of Nicaea. Got to go all the way back to 325, and what you find is you find that Constantine convened the people that were followers of the way of the different branches, because you got all these different branches. Some won out, some went underground, some were totally eliminated. But what Constantine did was Constantine made the church a tool of the Roman Empire to continue its furtherance of colonialism, but this time in the name of Jesus. And so I worked with his church last night to talk to them about it, helping them understand the nuances, and then bringing in what I consider to be one of the greatest minds on American civil religion, and that would be Robert Bella, Dr. Robert Bella, who is no longer with us, made his transition. But Robert Bella was one who studied the sociology of religion and was a long-term professor at Cal Berkeley. Robert Bella was a absolute genius in identifying the religious components inside of the civic reality or the civic world, being able to show that they are parallel and that the religion of America isn't Christianity. The religion of America is American civil religion. And in looking at American civil religion, you got all these great parallels. We have hymns in the church. They are hymns to the republic. You have documents that are written. We have the Bible. There's the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You have you have the church that you go to. There are monuments you go to in D.C., whether it's the Washington Monument, whether it's the Lincoln Memorial, whether it's over there where Madison is. Doesn't matter. All of it is so parallel. So you find these parallel pieces, and what happens is that they mask it so well that people who believe that they are worshiping God are really worshiping the identity and the entities of the state. And so we talked about that last night, and I took them through and kind of helped them understand theologically what the issues and the challenges are. Because, as Pastor Billingsley noted last night, one of the problems that we have is that people think that idolatry only pertains to little wooden idols and carvings and that sort of thing. But idolatry is bigger than that. And so idolatry is clearly something that's not on God's agenda for us to do. We should not be engaged in idolatry, because here's the reason. Here's how it fits into the Micah initiative. Idolatry keeps us away from doing justice. Because if we are engaged in idolatry, we're engaged in false worship. And in false worship, you're not able to do justice. Even when you're doing justice, you're doing it for the wrong reason. It's still idolatry. So we find ourselves, and I mean, it becomes very, 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 very important for us to understand that God is not cool with idolatry. And I know that may come as a surprise to some, but because God is not cool with idolatry, the question is, how do we avoid it if we have bought into? Because see, the 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 whole the whole framework of civil religion is rooted in nationalism, and it's not just we love our country. It's not that we will protect our country. It is we worship our country, worship everything about it. So what happens is the country becomes the idol. Nationalism becomes the platform by which we carry out our idolatry. That's the issue. That's the problem. Our problem is we find ourselves with this overt, and I mean even to this extreme aspect of nationalism. I can't think of anyone who lives in America. I can't think of anyone who lives in America who traveled to other countries can't see that America is unique. Absolutely one of the best places that you can live. But what happens is people take it as if God is only in America. And the God of American civil religion isn't the God of the Bible. Because to be honest, you don't need God if you got American civil religion, because your patriotism is going to be your justification. Patriotism in American civil religion is equal to faith in our context. And what you find is that people have put their patriotism over their faith. They have made patriotism more important than faith in God. Patriotism in the nation becomes more important than faith in God. And so we've got to begin to rethink, to reconsider, to reevaluate, to uh, examine why are we so tied into something that has been the fragment of somebody's imagination. I took the Bible study class last night all the way back to the first inaugural speech by George Washington, the first president of the United States, brought them up to Kennedy, then took them from Kennedy to Reagan, and began to show that inside of each one of these speeches, you can pick any president you want, and you can find American civil religion embedded inside of it. You can see that everything that they say they want to accomplish, they believe is the will of God. That the favor of God is only in America, that the blessings of God are only found in America. And that limits God. Psalm 24:1 reminds us that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. God loves everyone. Tying directly to one of the greatest passages you're going to find in the Bible, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him won't perish but have everlasting life. And then verse 17, God didn't send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but through him the world might be saved. So to only limit it to borders is problematic. This is all Benedict Anderson in his book Imagine Communities was saying, that borders are manufactured. Borders are manufactured. Borders are made by somebody else who has determined that their borders are what make nations. Borders don't make nations. People make nations. And you can have nations inside of nations because the borders are drawn up differently. And so we've got to begin to understand that God is much bigger than our patriotism. God is much bigger than our nationalism. You ought to love the country that you live in. You ought to love it so much that you are willing to speak out against any injustice that take place. What is required of you to do justice? Justice cannot be talked about in a theoretical context. Justice cannot be something that we only have in our minds. Justice has to be something that we absolutely do. You do justice, you don't talk about it. You don't have hypotheses about justice. You make justice happen. And when the church is more focused on platitudes of patriotism and not looking at the need for justice, the question is, what's going on? What's going on? I want to know what's on your mind as you and I begin to kind of work through this. Uh, so as I worked with them last night, I got to really thinking about it when it was, when we were done, because I took them through the inauguration speeches of major presidents, Washington, Kennedy, and Reagan. Uh, and really begin to, if you really want to do a better dive, you can use the work of Manny Marable's book, How the United States Underdevelop the Black Community. You can really begin to take a look at that book, which is based on also the same kind of wording and writing of how Europe underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. But you got some resources that can really help you understand the detriment of what happened. Uh, I even brought in the religious right and how the religious right did not have a concern about abortion, but they figured that it was the easiest way for them to be able to gain and court power in the Reagan White House, and they've been maintaining it ever since. Everything that you see going on right now can be tied back to these original generals of the religious right, your Pat Robertsons, your Charles Stanleys, your Jared Falwells, these individuals that came together because the great concern wasn't necessarily abortion. Great concern was, man, what are we going to do about these Negroes uh, that have gotten civil rights and all these other things? There are several books. Once I get this area set up, I'm gonna bring my books in. I'll be able to point them out to you and help you see. But you got several resources that absolutely speak to the plight of the black community and the Hispanic community, where individuals are stuck, where they are challenged. Going to my Kindle so I can at least give you another book, because I think it becomes critical for us to, really take a look at. Uh, and I don't know if it's in my Kindle or if it's in my Apple Books. But what you find is you find this need for individuals to begin to look at how do we move forward? How do we engage? The book I had in mind, and looking at the religious right and looking at the rise of Billy Graham and these other individuals that have tied into the American Civil Religion Project, is One Nation Under God by Kevin Kruse, Kruse. One of the books that I had to kind of put into my repertoire when I was working on my doctoral work. Um, but that book really helped me begin to understand how far back this fight goes and what these individuals will fight for. They didn't care about abortion. Abortion is a major issue today. Um, and for individuals that are looking for ways to discount people and to remove them, I would suggest that you find another option. You found another venue in which you can do that. They did not care about abortion. They decided to use that because it was the easiest way. But one of the main reasons why they wanted to use that was because the population of what has commonly been referred to as white Americans were dwindling in the United States. And in order for them to stop the rise of black and brown families and communities that were outpacing them, abortion became the whole issue because the majority of the people getting abortions were not black and brown people. And so this was about population control. So there's a civil religion is literally in everything. One of the questions that was asked last night by one of the participants in Bible study is, what do we do to fight against this? How do we stop it? I said, well, you can't stop it. No matter how hard you try, you can't stop it. Why? Why can't you stop it? Can't stop it because it has been going on since the time of Constantine, 325 AD. You ain't stopping it. But what you can do is you can begin to work through it, try to help people understand what they can and what they should do. Being able to get people to understand that they need the courage, they need the hope, they need the inspiration, they need the support in order to do something along these lines. To stop worshiping the state and begin worshiping God. To stop engaging in idolatry and begin to worship the one true God. Stop looking at things through a political lens and understand that you are spiritual first before it manifests in the physical. So there's a whole lot that's tied to this. There's a lot that's going on. There's a lot that we can absolutely talk about. That was the Bible study last night in a nutshell. Um, so where do we go from here? What do we do? What do we do? We're going to uh, begin looking at justice. We're going to look at loving kindness, and we're going to look at what it means to walk humbly with God. You can't walk humbly with God if you don't love justice, and you can't walk humbly with God if you don't do justice. And so the linchpin to it all is justice. The linchpin to it all is justice. Um, let me see what else. What else? What else? What else? What else? I think study. Let me talk about study and distractions. This morning I did what I have been doing for the past several years. I engage in what I call the rolling commentary. Rolling commentary is when I'm riding and I have the camera going. I'm just talking freehand because there are things on my mind, things I think we need to talk about, things that need to be addressed. And I do this on my Facebook feed. Um, Here's the reason why I want to bring up distractions in study. Uh, One of the biggest things that's in the news media, because what you will find with the news media is that they'll go through several cycles. They will have something hot to talk about and they'll milk it for everything it's worth. Then it'll drop to the side and something else will pop up. And then it'll drop to the side and something else will pop up. Well, right now, what's hot in the uh, news cycle, what's hot on the feed, what's hot in YouTube, what's hot on Instagram, is the trial of Sean Puffy Combs. Now, I talked about that this morning because uh, many people are being distracted. They are being distracted by the salacious details that are coming out in this trial. Things that he did, things that Cassie said he forced her to do, all these things that were happening and going on. Now, of course, I wasn't at any parties. I know only what people have said happened or what some people have put in the news. Um, but now it's the hottest story. It is scandalous. It is salacious. It's sick and it's demented. Some of the things that have come out. But some people are distracted by it because that's all they want to talk about, and they help keep it in the news cycle. Some of these scandalous news sources are keeping it in the news cycle. They are making sure that people pay attention to it. They're keeping it in the algorithm department so everybody can keep watching, and the algorithms just keep it coming and keep it coming and keep it coming. Um, when you are distracted as a believer, I want to be very specific. When you are distracted as a disciple of Jesus Christ, that means that the world has your attention. That means that you are listening to the world instead of listening to God. You have made it a decision that you're going to follow this thing to the very end. And the question is, why? Why are you following it? Why are you studying it? Why are you reading it? Why are you doing this? I think you're doing it because uh, you got tickling ears. I think people are following this thing to the great detail from the church because they have tickling ears. They have ears that are that spice up whenever something uh, scandalous happens, or they are looking for the latest gossip so they can have something to talk about. When we are engaged in sick, sadistic, scandalous, and you know just nasty conversations, we don't have time to study. We don't have time to study. We don't have time to open our Bible. We don't have time to spend with God. We don't have time to be in devotion. We are too busy engaging in salaciousness instead of sacredness. We're too busy engaging in hearsay instead of engaging in what the holy has to say. And when that happens, we get distracted, and our distraction impacts our study. We are reminded by Paul to study to show ourselves approved unto God. We are reminded that we ought to be engaged in our development. You can't be engaged in your development if you are too busy looking at what's happening in society. What happened to that young lady, named Cassie? Tragic. Absolutely tragic. No woman should have to live through what she lived through. No woman. No man should have to live through what they have lived through. My question, my question is, where are the leaders? Where are the people that have supposed to raise our children with a level of confidence? This I believe ties directly back to many of our childhoods. Many people are still suffering from childhood trauma because of what their parents put them through. There's no way that this man can be doing all this stuff unless there's something that happened in his childhood that led him down this path. There's nothing that happened in all these people's livelihoods and childhoods that 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 would lead them to engage in some of the demented actions that they have been engaged in according to court documents and according to people's so-called testimony. I mean, this is going to be a nasty piece of work when it's all said and done. Question is, where is God in this? Where is the Lord? Where is the development of the people? Where are the pastors? Where are the churches? Where are they? Because if they are absent, if they are absent, because you're gonna have them. I mean, you hear them on the television, stations. You hear them on the radio shows. You see them at the award shows. You see them all this. And the moment they win an award, they want to thank their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. My question is, where has Jesus been for them in the midst of all that they're going through? I think the Lord finally answered the prayers of people who were praying that this would be exposed. But for those who are actively involved, actively getting involved, actively participating, that said that they are a child of the Lord Jesus Christ, where are they? Where was the Lord when the oil was being heated up to be put on glistening bodies? Where? Where was the Lord in the midst of all? See, this is what I told the Sunday the Bible study group last night. I said black folks get duped. Black folks get duped every time somebody say the name Jesus. Every time somebody say the name Jesus, they get duped. You know why they get duped? Because we believe that the moment somebody says they know the Lord, we just accept them at their word. And the text tells us over there in them epistles of John, you need to test it to see if the spirit is of the Lord or if it's not. No, black folks say test the spirit by the spirit. But if it's two spirits that are evil testing each other, they're going to balance out and they're going to act like everything is all good. Now, you need to test and see if that spirit is of the Lord. Because if it is of the Lord, here you go, it'll meet the Micah initiative. It will say you do justice. See, it's a three-pronged test. When you test it, is it loving kindness and are you walking humbly with God? If you fail any of those, that is not the Spirit of the Lord. Spirit of the Lord, Jesus said, is upon me to do, not to think, not to pontificate, but to do. So as I get ready to wrap up, question is, what are you gonna do this week? I'm gonna try to do these and record it and then make some edits. I'm gonna try and put like a banner at the bottom. I'm gonna do all that. Let it show up periodically. You know, I want to give you a fresh angle, fresh perspective by which you can listen and you can look at. I want you to take this seriously because I'm going to try to do this recording at least once a week or once every 2 weeks. So that way, at least 2 times a month, you can get something fresh. I need you to press that share button. Look, share it with your friends. Click on it. I want to be able to talk to everyday common people. I can talk to the theologians. I can hit them. I can holler at them. We all speak the same language. But man, look, we moved. Just give you a quick background. We moved from Chicago. Used to live on the west side of Chicago. My father grew up in the Robert Taylor homes. My grandmother lived on 63rd and Drexel. I was in Chicago, and then we moved to Alabama. And in moving to Alabama, everything was different. But where I grew up in Alabama, my mom and dad didn't move us to the city. We didn't live in Ensley Pratt City. We didn't live in West End. We didn't live, in Gate City. We didn't live in the hood. They moved us out to where my mama grew up, which is the Edgewater Mugger area. Out there you find, people got hogs and chickens and cows. But check it out. It's only a 5-minute drive from the city to that area. So we grew up close enough in the city, but we were raised right out there. 13 years old, I'm out there. And one of the things about growing up out there is that it's an old mining camp. So I grew up around old miners, people who daddies and granddaddies used to work in the mines when it was open. And the name of the community proper is Mugger Mines. That was the name proper. My granddaddy worked at the steel plant right over here, right around the corner from where I'm sitting right now, at the First Baptist Church in Ensley. My grandfather worked there, but grew up in that area where I grew up in the country portion, and I learned that integrity matters. I learned that being honest means something. I learned that having ethics absolutely counts for something. And so that's my background. While I can speak at these levels, man, I'm just that dude. I'm just that dude. Just that dude. I can go kick it with the bros. I can I can relax, with folk that I'm around. I still, try to roll and hang out. I still try to roll and hang out with my cousins from time to time. You know, when I'm not doing all this traveling, all this other stuff, I just want this thing to go forward. I need followers. I need followers so y'all followers can get something fresh and different every time we get ready to go. Every time we get ready to go, that's what I need. So look, need you to like, need you to share, need you to uh, accept this. So I'm gonna holler at y'all.